10, page AyinBase 10. And we are going to start now the second paragraph on this page, which is actually the concluding paragraph of this mimer. This mimer took us around all over the place. Now they come into land.
Lord. Thank you.
Just to get a little bit of a commitment, of a touch of what the mimer brought out. There is the term that we started way back when, what's called tzurah atzmis. Tzurah atzmis means the form. Form generally applies to that means by which anything reveals itself.
Going to close the windows between so to maybe minimize the noise.
Tzurah atzmis means the essential tzurah, the way it shows itself from its essence, not minimizing, not directing a certain message, but to express itself fully. It's the tzurah atzmis. So, initially, the thought of tzurah atzmis would immediately apply to tzurah atzmis the way it is in atzmis, in etzem itself. Tzurah atzmis as it is in the etzem. I said this is a very broad, long discussion here. Ultimately, he pointed out that the oir also qualifies as tzurah atzmis. Although, as he pointed out, although that the oir ein soif, coming from atzmus, is not at all tzurah atzmis, meaning to say there is no tzurah in etzem at all. The fact that the etzem is nisgala, is revealed itself, is not like in the case of the sun, that the sun has light internally, and the light then brings the sun to expression. There is no aspect of gilui in the atzmus itself. The whole phenomenon of gilui is something which he creates because he wants to be nisgal, so therefore there is yin from gilui. There is no tzurah atzmis. Nevertheless, even that oir also qualifies to be called tzurah atzmis. That was a very, very difficult threat to bring this out. Ultimately, the principle is that being that this is the very first gilui from the etzem, it qualifies as tzurah atzmis. This we discussed at great length as we were going along. And now we're coming to the end of this, to the conclusion of this mimer. This mimer is actually a mimer on Posik Vayir Chayesora. And they have the question, Chayesora. The Torah mentioned that her name was her age or lifespan was 127 years. And it mentions 120 and 7, but each one it denotes as years. It separates each one as a separate entity. And our question was why? 127 years is one mention of years. It's all the same thing, the same entity, years. Now, with this and above,
the further question why it said Shana Vishanim.
No, that's also okay. That's
he did ask that, I believe. In other words, why it should say it uses the term Shanim. I'm the smallest one, and Shona, and the two larger.
Okay, fine. The Pihanal Yuvan. With the above, you understand Mashakosu, Meir Shona Veshim Shona Kul. Hine Yadua, for it is known, the Meyo who bekes that the number 100, that this is the way the spheres are in Kesef. Nobody will say that there is 10 spheres. The Meir sphere is, this is the way the spheres are in Kesef. Kesef means in the makif, in that which includes all the spheres. Kedisha bezeher al zeh. As the Zeher says on this, the kucho brihu, the yishkliya me'asar ilo, stimo dechol stimo, berozo de meya pirchoi. Kucho brihu, the yishkliya that includes me'asar ilo, from a high place, stimo dechol stimo, which is Stimo dechol stimo means that this is something which is not fully revealed. It is concealed within concealment. But Rosa, and the principle there is the Meya Birchoy. This is the 100 Berachos. The Haina Bechinas HaKesef, and this is referring to the Kesef Shehu Reish U'Moker L'Ne'etzoli. The Kesef is the source for Atzilus. The Keil has a spheres, and it includes all 10 spheres. V'hein shom b'bchina shleimus yesef.
To remain on this call, press 1.
V'hein shom.
Returning to the conference room.
And there, the spheres in Keser are b'bchina shleimus yesef, in a more perfect manner, in a more complete manner. The kol echad, the kol achas ktula meyaser, where each individual sphere only incorporates, is composed of 10. Ve'al keinu mispar meya, and this is where the number 100 is derived from. That each sphere is composed of 10, of all 10 spheres. 10 times 10 ends up to be 100. However, this is only applicable, this can only explain the from Chitzenes HaKesef. Why is it Chitzenes HaKesef? Because this is referring to the Kesef as it is Moker Ho'es Sfirat Atzilus, the source for the 10 spheres of Atzilus. One more line, and then we'll discuss this briefly. This is not the focal point of the mind. But in the pnimis of the Keser, in the essence of Keser, there, the principle of mispar of numbers is totally inapplicable. And as the Zohar says, you are one, and not part of any cheshbon, of any inclusive number. So, just briefly, what this is referring to, what this is alluding to, is Pnimius and Chitzonius essentially means the way the oil is for an internal, from inside, that it's how it is perceived from inside. And Chitzonius is how it is perceived from outside. And as we always try to give a very, very simple, this is something which is recurring in Chassidus all the time. But to have a grasp, an idea of what this is about, to give us a very simple illustration of this thing, which is even true in our experience, in our world. Which is all, there's also Pnimis and Chitzonius. So on the simplest and lowest level, a table can be composed of several components. A top board and 4 legs, that's the minimum of a table. This is the way it is with chitzonius. Why chitzonius? This is the way you express the different table, bringing it to the physical level. But the concept of a table is not a physical concept. As we discussed many times, a table is something which is human, which for the human being, this is an expression of the human stature. It doesn't not, it's not, there's no components, certainly not these components. This is the reality of the way it is. As we always say, we mentioned that even the Shomas in Gan Eden sit by tables. They don't sit by tables that are supported by 4 legs. It's a unit of a table. That unit of a table, the way it is bipnimis in its essence, is not composed of 5 pieces. The composition of 5 pieces is in order only to capture and to enable the concept of a table to be in a physical environment. Express it in a physical environment. This is not the essence of the table. This is principle of chitzonius. Chitzonius is how the essence is grasped, is expressed in a world that's completely foreign to it, in a different world. Then you have to break it down and make it happen according to the requirements of that world. So the same Indian is in Ruchnis. Going straight to the Indian of we discuss it at various levels because in Ruchnis also, but coming to the Maimer, Kesed is the source of the Esesphilas. But not the source of the in the Kesed there are no 10 spheres per se. The Kesed is not composed of 10 spheres. The Kesed is one reality that in order to be netzel, to be expressed, it has to have these 10 means of which it expresses. So in Pnimis HaKesed is ein shach misper klal. The whole principle of misper is not applicable. And the chad bo b'chushba. Although all the inyanim of Esesphilas are contained in the Kesed, but they're not contained there as individual entities. The Kesed is not a composite of 10 spheres. The Kesed is above the 10 spheres. It's the source of this whole thing. This is the oil that enables, that inspires the 10 spheres. And therefore there is no mispur, there's no number applicable within the Kesed.
You said it was the number of Maya came up relating to Kesed, no?
Right.
Chitzonius.
So the Chitzonius, the Maya, the 100, right. In order to express the Kesed and the Chitzonius into Atzilus, it will be 100.
Okay. Lo b'chushban goes on Pnimis.
Right. As we continue, we'll point more points that we have already discussed many times before. Behein bechinas atik ve'arich. And the what is the Pnimis HaKesed? Pnimis HaKesed are 2 madrigas, Atik and Arich. Again, very briefly, Atik normally is identified with Oineg, and Arich is normally identified with Rotz. So Oineg is something which is a little bit beyond our seichel. Sometimes we discuss it very briefly. But Rotzain is something which we can actually relate to. Like I said many times, that Seichel is really dependent on Rotzain. In order to understand any Seichel, you have to want to understand it. In other words, the understanding is not. There is Chitzonius you understand that. I mention all the time. The Chitzonius understanding that the physical structure, which is called understanding in the world, is not understanding at all. This is totally not understanding. Like I give the example, 1 and 1 is 2. Physically, it's 2 because you count out 1 and 1, you 2. But there's no relationship between these. This is not a concept. This is not really the real Seichel. Seichel is that 1 and 1 is 2, is 1 unit of 2. That is a Seichel Dik'inyan. And that is based on the Oyer HaRotzin, Oyer HaNefesh. But there is a unifying quality in all its components.
So, does Atik relates to Oneg and Arif to Ratzin?
Atik is usually identified with Oneg, and Arif is identified with Ratzin.
So is he equating those there with the two, with Pnimius and Chetzonius of Keser?
No. Yeah, a little bit, yes. That will come to it. Atik and Arif both are in Pnimius, I guess. But because Arif is still inside the Keser. But yes, let's not jump in it. So I just want to explain the following. The word Atik means removed. Arich means long. These terms, removed and long, are denoting the spheres as they are in Kesed. The spheres as they are in Kesed, there is the Atik element. The Atik means that it's completely remote. There is no identifiable spheres at all. Then there is Arich. And Arich, there is an element of identifiable spheres, but then the spheres are Arich. Arich means in bigger form, larger than the spheres as they come in Megillah and Atzilus. As we said just before, spheres are first identified in Chochmah, in Seichel. Chochmah is a source that identifies all the spheres. The way the spheres are identified in Chochmah, they are already individual spheres. Chochmah identifies Bina, identifies Chesed and Gvura and so forth. It gives place for all the components, all the aspects. The way these same things are, so we said before that actually Seichel is based on Rotzain. Rotzain is that which gives place for everything. This giving place is already an element of a present, space and time. But in the initial union that it gives place, there is no limited spheres, identifiable spheres. Therefore, it's called Ayin. This is briefly the union of the way it is contained in the source. So the way it is in Atik and Arich, there are no number. It's like composed of 10 spheres per se. Nevertheless, the 10 spheres are included there. This is what it says here. And the way the 10 spheres are included there is in the form of Maya. Maya means, I'm just going to say, what's 100? 100 means the full composition of the sphere. Let me give you an illustration of the concept of a full composition. This is a surface. This surface has two dimensions in each direction, and these two dimensions define the surface. And when we look at this surface, we actually see it via the two dimensions. As we said, how do you grasp something? I saw it. The dimension, you grasp it by its dimensions, by its borders. And then, the way a human being sees it, Seichel sees it, Chacham sees it, Chacham does not look at this in two dimensions. Chacham says this is a book, a real presence.
The last step again, Seichel does not see.
Does not look at things in a non-existent manner. Flat is just an apparition, an appearance. It looks at things in the reality. What exists here? Is it? It's just a surface. It's a book.
Yeah, but that's a three-dimensional object.
No. The two-dimension is part of the three-dimension. It's not an entity on itself.
Oh, you mean if Seichel is looking at just the face of the book, it projects that there's the
It
whole
looks,
object.
but it doesn't even apply to the two-dimension. So this is a reality. That's how Seichel looks.
Yeah,
Like I said many times. A dog comes to a house, it sees a wall. Human being does not see a wall. He sees a house. That's what a human being reads.
So too, he does not see two, he sees the whole reality.
And there, the individual dimensions are lost within the reality. They are there by the virtue of the fact that there's a reality, not because there is these dimensions.
Okay.
That's what hearing is.
Right. And that was a mashal for
say 100 of all the 10 spheres. 100 means that there is the full component, making it real, not each sphere individually. In our experience, Chokhmah surfaces on its own first, and it surfaces in a nondescript manner in what's called Borogam. And then you have to first decipher what you can draw from this Borogam. It becomes a full-fledged presence after it goes through the entire development of all 10 spheres. But this initial Borogam draws from the reality of 10 spheres, the way it is in the Nefesh. The Nefesh doesn't know about a spark. It was the reality. This is how the Chokhmah ultimately enables us to recognize the full reality, because it actually comes from there. But the way it is there, the full reality is in everything.
Okay. And for some reason the full reality is called 100, whereas it's really beyond any number.
Right, because 100 means shleimus. There are no 100 dimensions. There is a complete reality. The principle of 3 dimensions is an imaginary thing. 3 dimensions it encompasses the whole space as real. 3 dimensions is a borrowed term to define a book.
Well, when you said 3 dimensions is imaginary, you're not meaning it's totally non-real, you just mean it's relevant to a lower reality. Right? Or do you mean it's
Right,
really
no,
imaginary?
that's right. It is from a lower reality perspective, looking at something higher in this manner. But really, that's not what this is composed of.
Okay. Right.
It's a means of grasping it, but not that this defines what it is.
Right.
Okay, so let's go inside now. Being that Keser includes both these madreges, Umeir Bechinas Atik, Bivchinas Arich, which means that within the Keser, the Bechina of Atik is Meir in the Arich. Arich is where within the Keser itself there is an element of spheres, I said. But in essence, what these spheres represent is Atik, that which is above spheres completely.
How can it be both ways?
No, wait 1 second. Good morning. Use the illustration that we've used many times in the past. In order to get from one point to another point, we have to walk 10 steps to get there. What conceptualized initially that I want to be here? I'm here, I want to be here. Like the Baal Shem Tov. Mokim sheritzenu shelodim shomhu. The place where a person wants to be, that's where he is. How is that? Because the Rotzin perceives the entire existence not in components, in individual components of space, but one reality. And he is where he wants to be. Because in other words, what aspect of that reality he relates to that which he wants to. It's very brief to see. So here we have actually these two in one. We have the overall reality, this is the Atik, and then how we can actually break it down into 10 steps. I want to be there, and I perceive I'll get there by making 10 steps.
You said here we have both.
This is the Atik and the Atik.
Oh, okay.
It's emotional for that. The Atik, when you said many times, just every day almost, lately we mentioned that. When a person walks on a straight path, he's not walking on this path in isolation. He's walking on this path as part of the entire globe.
This is showing on the Arif as the Atik.
The Atik illuminating the Atik.
Continuously, even though he's going step by step, he's still...
He has the whole thing. This is the difference. A human being perceives the whole reality. A dog walks on a very narrow path. Doesn't know of anything more than what he's actually stepping on. So being that Kesed includes both adregas, Meir Bechinas Atik, Bivchinas Arich. That even though Arich is already divinable, divisible into individual steps, but the Atik is actually sensed there and inspiring that thing. Al Kain, therefore, Gam Gabe Meir. That's why Gam Gabe Meir. Even when it says Meir 100, and 100, this is the all-inclusive of all the spheres. Ne'emar Shona Loshen Yochid. It says Shona Loshen Yochid. Why? Because each entity is identified individual, is known individual.
Isn't the emphasis here is that the fact that it uses a Lashon Yachid is because the Atik is meir into it?
No.
Even though it's still meir, but it's being illuminated by the higher. Otherwise, it would say Shani.
Because Atik illuminates, it definitely becomes Shona, becomes one. But there is 100. There's 100 because of Arich, but there is the oil of Atik in it that unites them all as one thing. All right, I think that we should limit it today, so we have a very small attendance. I want everybody to miss it. I know these days, these nights, are pretty tough. So we have not skipped a class. That's the main thing.